Good afternoon, friends. Adab.
Adab, Shah Sahab.
Let's begin the session.
Shah Sahab, with apologies to you, I want to begin just with the condolence message, and we want to collectively offer our condolences to you on the sad demise of your beloved wife.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that. Sorry, O.P. Shah Sahab. Sorry to learn this.
Yes, I join in the condolences.
All the panelists.
All of us join.
Condolences to Shah Sahab, and I will request the panelists to maintain silence for about a few seconds in memory of that gracious lady and to pray for her peace to her soul. Shah Sahab, you may resume.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shah Sahab, condolences, Subramaniam bol raha hoon.
Thank you. Friends, I have great pleasure in welcoming you to this webinar organized by Center for Peace and Progress on 4-point formula. We are fortunate that Mr. Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri is with us to initiate the discussion. And we have a good number of friends, both from India and Pakistan, who would participate in the discussion. We started our journey on Indo-Pak way back in 1991, when we had first session in Delhi in October, November 91. Then we had 3 sessions in Lahore, Islamabad,
Atish,
in
get
December 91, and then Indo-Pak dialogue in April 92. May I straight away, without further introduction, request Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri Sahab to initiate the discussion. And he will be followed by 3 Indian speakers, and then we will have Ambassador Basit to respond to some of the comments which are made by the Indian participants. Kasuri Sahab.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of distortion. Hello.
Yes, we hear you. We hear you.
There's a lot of distortion. Okay, I'll start. Thank you, O.P. Shah Sahab. I've already condoled with you on the telephone regarding your wife. I would join all the participants in offering my condolences once again. I had the pleasure of meeting her also. And now you called, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're audible.
Yeah, it's a very bad line. I don't know whether maybe somebody's got their speakers on. I don't know.
Shah Sahab, if everybody else other than Mr. Kasuri mute themselves. All others, please stay mute other than the speaker. Then I think we can hear him clearly.
Yes, Kasuri Sahab.
Thank you very much. Now it's much better. You asked me to talk just 1 or 2 days after the Indian Prime Minister had called Kashmiri leaders, although they were handpicked by the Prime Minister. Nevertheless, I am one of those who welcomes all moves forwards. But you've all heard the comments by former Chief Minister Mahbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah and others. It seems that they all wish to go back to the 5th of August 2019 situation. Be that as it may, there's been a lot of comment in the Indian media and in the international media, of course, in the Pakistani media as well, on what has prompted Prime Minister Modi. Now, I will not go into details, it will take a lot of time, but I just hint at some of the things that the international media is speaking about. It's talking of India's clash with China on the Ladakh border. It's talking of the dramatic situation developing in Afghanistan. It's talking of the pressure by the Biden administration. Be that as it may, if this is only a tactical move by the Indian Prime Minister, that will not get us very far. Let's hope that he's serious about this and matters will go further. Now, you asked me to speak about 4 points. I can tell you without any sort of fear of contradiction that civil society in Pakistan, all political parties, by and large feel that only a negotiated solution, because we've tried wars. 5 times we fought, not 3 times. I've listed in my book. And 3, of course, were major wars. And 5 times we were on the verge of a war. That's not either country has not managed to get an inch from the other. So the only rational way out is actually dialogue. Now, it doesn't mean that all people in India or Pakistan, even before Mr. Modi came, now of course the situation is much worse, agree with any solution of the type that we were talking about. It's good you've got Ambassador Nasir, who's recently written his book about which he's given his views, which are critical of a large part of the political leadership in Pakistan. But that is his view. But there are many more in India who object to any solution of the type that I have indicated. Now, what I have indicated in my book really is that this is what was agreed on, good or bad. Of course, it could never be an ideal solution. Ideal would be from Pakistan's perspective that it becomes a part of Pakistan. From Indian perspective, that either we walk out of Gilgit, Baltistan and Azad Jammu Kashmir, which is of course unthinkable, so the only way out which we found, and I've also listed in my book, statements by every political leader, every military leader who has ever been in power. So the net conclusion is that they all reached this. And then BJP's Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, with whom I had the pleasure of interacting, and Dr. Manmohan Singh. So these views are uncontroverted, but it doesn't mean that there are no critics in our own countries. There are critics of Dr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Vajpayee in India, and there are critics of the solution in Pakistan, and particularly among some retired soldiers and retired ambassadors. Be that as it may, I have come to the conclusion there is no other way, unless, of course, Kashmiri's blood is to be spilled endlessly. I'm one of those who frankly feel Kashmir is not a part of a territory over which we are fighting. It's a question of fundamental human rights. Now, so if you ask me, so what I'll do is basically give you the spirit and then only read the headlines. There's no question of going through the entire thing, because I will have an opportunity to respond. Now, what was the basis? The basis was that I knew one thing, that if the leadership in Jammu and Kashmir rejected it, it will be dead in Pakistan. Nobody would accept it. So I had to speak to them, the entire leadership in Jammu and Kashmir. I will not specify. Everybody who matters, everybody's name. That, of course, includes Hurriyat, it includes JKLF, it includes those who've been taking part in elections in India. So I knew one thing, that and let me now say without fear of contradiction, that except for Ali Shah Gilani Sahab, who although he had welcomed the original declaration, but he was critical of the sort of solution that was being contrived. So by and large, it would have found acceptance in Kashmir among large sections of Hurriyat, JKLF, and of course parties which take part in Indian elections. And in Pakistan, effectively every political party has been negotiating on this, as Mr. Lamba has later on indicated. even those who criticized us when we were in power, that includes PPP and PMLN. So in Pakistan, and then the current Prime Minister Imran Khan is on record as having supported the 4-point formula. After meeting Prime Minister Modi, he was at that time not Prime Minister, but in fact referred to my book and said the details given in Kasuri's book. Now, therefore, in Pakistan, there's more acceptance. In India, under Prime Minister Modi, I think under Prime Minister Modi, there's going to be much less acceptance. So whether anybody accepts it in India or Pakistan, whether the current government accepts it or not, this is the only way out, since war is not an option and Kashmiri blood cannot be spilled endlessly. So I have come to the conclusion personally, and I think I'm happy the political class in Pakistan reached this conclusion, that 4-point is the basis. Now, what is the 4-point? 4-point, since it was contrived after talking to leadership in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, it consists of follows. The first requirement was they were very upfront with me in telling me that the Indian military should move as much as possible out of main cities. So the first agreement, after a great deal of dilly-dallying, I'll spare you the term, was that there was going to be a large, the first point, substantial demilitarization, beginning with major urban centers, and then thinning out and keeping the very minimum number of troops required on the line of control. The second was, what was Kashmir? We had to define Kashmir because we did not wish to include Gilgit and Baltistan because we felt that the Maharaja's governor had been arrested and they had declared their independence. But India said that either it will be a discussion on all or nothing. So it was included, but we said that there will be 2 portions, one which Pakistan is currently administering, one that the Indians were doing. So there was an assumption how India would do and how Pakistan would do. But there was no question. One thing was clear, there would be maximum self-governance in both parts, legislative, executive, and judicial. There was absolutely no doubt, and both had agreed. The other point was a joint mechanism. A certain number of subjects were given, and people, a certain number of elected members from both sides would be parts of it. The most important, I would say, is there was also common policies towards development of infrastructure, hydroelectricity, and exploitation of water resources. Even the American Senate has said that if there's a war in future in Pakistan and India, it will be on water. So then there was an agreement to wean militants away, and there were camps established in Pakistan for that purpose under what is called the... Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Then elections in both sides would be monitored by international observers. That monitoring and review process, this was also included. And LOC, India said there's going to be no change on the line of control. We said then in that case, effectively for Kashmiris, it will cease to exist. It will merely be a line. There was going to be a treaty of peace and friendship, and between the two countries, there was the most important thing was an unwritten part of the agreement that neither side would proclaim victory, because we are sure that whoever was in the opposition would take pot shots at the agreement, which of course happens on national budgets, on anything important. Unfortunately, in Pakistan and India, if a party is advocating something in power, it will find it its duty to oppose it while it's in opposition. So
please
therefore,
conclude.
We had included that. Thank you. And if I am asked questions, I will clarify later.
Thank you very much, Kasuri Saab. Mr. Nijamuddin Bhatt. Nijamuddin Bhatt Saab. Nijamuddin Bhatt. Mr. Kapil Kak.
Let me
3 minutes, please. 3 minutes, please.
I must first thank Gopi Shah Saab for providing me this opportunity. Let me come straight to the point. When Sati Lamba handed over a non-paper to Riaz Khan, his counterpart, in March 2007, that Riaz Khan later said it was 90% agreed on both sides, quote unquote. I made a careful note of what Khurshid Saab said just now. We have come a long way from that time, 13 years later, and you referred to the 24th June meeting just 2 days ago. All that the 4 points stood on is now upended in my perspective. The legs on which it stood. You just referred to the maximum self-governance on both sides. I don't know about Pakistan. Perhaps you could, in your responses later, give us an idea, but maximum self-governance on Indian side is questionable. This is the bad news. The good news is that, and I agree with you on this, Khurshid Saab, that wherever we go, whichever pathway we follow, at the end of the day, we have to come to this 4-point formula because it is based on non-territoriality. It is based on certain humanistic considerations, people-to-people linkage, and what the construct was. I don't want to repeat what you said. It's not only the Chinese forces in Eastern Ladakh, some degree of problems in relation to Afghanistan, what happens in the post-Afghanistan period. But may I remind my very distinguished panelists here that what we forget is that Pakistan and India have had back channels in recent months. And if the DGMO joint statement in my 40 years in uniform, in an Air Force uniform, I have not known of a statement made by two military leaders of India and Pakistan in which a very high value load of politics is introduced. And I'm referring to that famous sentence that we will address core concerns on both sides. You know what that shorthand is for. So my view is that relations between India and Pakistan, two stakeholders, on the other side, the situation which is changing in Jammu and Kashmir does make for a certain degree of bilateral continuance of competition, maybe mild cooperation from time to time. I think what I need to highlight here is what is the impact of day before's meeting on 4-point formula. Firstly, the meeting is cosmetic in my view. Round one has gone clearly to the union government. It seeks a political endorsement of the actions which have been taken on 5th of August by the union government. And I'm a petitioner in the Supreme Court against those actions. Delimitations, which seems to have been the elephant in the room, is a high priority from the union government, and it has large number of suspicions from the leaders with whom interactions were held. I do see a problem also in the sequencing of delimitation and elections followed by statehood, or delimitations followed by statehood and election. There are different responses here. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. I think one positive feature of this point that you made, Kazuri Saab, about this is a forward step. I agree entirely. But it is, in my view, if you go back to the biblical fable of David and Goliath, this is a Goliath sitting in Delhi with concentrated power, strength of that power on one hand, and on the other hand, David, serially humiliated, and now in a position of helplessness. So what kind of a conversation would you have between David on the one hand and Goliath on the other hand?
Please conclude.
I also want to, I just take a minute here. I also want to, one relief that we see here is that people are looking forward to their own representatives governing them, whether it happens tomorrow, day after, or the day after, as against the 3 years of suppressive, in many ways very hard rule of bureaucrats directed centrally by the union government. What would perhaps be the outcome of this from the centre's side, and which will have an impact on the 4 point, is an effort to continue initiatives which disable any elements of resistance which could come to the actions which have been taken in the past. So I see a very slow process. Pace will be determined by the center and certainly not by the valley representatives who were there. And lastly, I know time is short, civil society like ours can move forward only if the high commissioners of the two countries are restored and the commissions brought to the full strength, and we have some degree of liberalization of visa regimes as also people-to-people humanism. And I'd like to suggest not only to OP Shah, but also to my Pakistani eminent colleagues, and I'm so glad to see my friend Abdul Basit Saab here, that maybe all these initiatives I continue to be part of India-Pakistan Zoom meetings on the track to all these year and a half. But I think it was time that the Pakistani side initiated these Zoom meetings. It's for the Pakistani panelists, very eminent panelists who are here, to become the OP Shahs on the other hand, and see if we can move forward on both sides, because in the end, I think such dialogues have a magical quality about them and spring forth from humanism and people-to-people issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Muzaffar Shah. Mr. Muzaffar Shah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, 3 minutes, sir.
Sure, I'll try to wrap it up in 3 minutes. Thank you very much, all the panelists, and thank you very much, OP Shah Saab, for bringing us all together again. We have a very, very good panel from across the border. This is the way to move forward, I think so. And coming to the point straight, what I heard from Kasuri Saab and Kapil Kakji, I would add that people-to-people dialogue is a must in this matter. Back channel diplomacy, all those things are all fine. And we are talking about people. We are talking about people of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Gilgit-Baltistan, Muzaffarabad, and as state subjects, earlier state subjects, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is Jammu, whether it is Ladakh, whether it is Gilgit, Baltistan, Muzaffarabad, it belongs to every single state subject of this state, be it from any region or religion. What I would suggest is that we have held bilateral talks, we have held back channel diplomacy and all welcome, absolutely welcome. Tashkent, Lahore, Agra, Shimla, everything has come out for us. No doubt about that. But we have not reached to any conclusion of what is to be done and how peace is to be brought into Kashmir and how peace is to be brought between India and Pakistan. So I would really suggest that bilateral talks, very okay, but as basic principal sufferers of this dispute, as the basic stakeholders, our voice has to be heard on both sides of the line of control. That is my point number one that I would like to make. And the work that is being done at Mr. Kapil Kak's level, it is being done with Mr. Khurshid Kusuri also having played a major role, and a lot of panelists in this which are there. I can see also Mr. Sudhendra Kulkarni on the show. A lot of things have happened from our end, from the other side. But what we know today, that we are, as Mr. Kak said, we are going through some kind of a very hard rule being foisted over Kashmir at this time. And yesterday, as you can see, we had an initiative from the Honorable Prime Minister. That's all welcome, very welcome. And they have their own set agenda on delimitation, on elections, on statehood. Well, that's all fine. But as from Kashmir, I can tell you, as long as we do not talk 370 and 35A, there will be no satisfaction on the streets. It is not a matter of satisfying leaders, whether here or across the border. It is the matter of satisfying the people. It is the people's matter that is to be satisfied. And I'm sure what was given by the constitution of this country to Jammu and Kashmir in the shape of 370, a mere parliamentary decision cannot change that. Absolutely cannot do that. And I'm sure we are going to have more meetings with the Prime Minister and his team. We have as a part of the...
Please conclude.
Yes, I will conclude. As one of the apex members of the committee, we are very clear about it. And it is the voice, a majoritarian voice from Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, that no compromise, no going back on 370 and 35A. And we will be a part and parcel of every dialogue that is put forth from wherever for peace between India and Pakistan. It is paramount to the safety and security of our people. Peace between India and Pakistan is a must, and the matter of Jammu and Kashmir has to be put to rest ultimately. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dulat. Dulat Saab. Is Dulat Saab around? Dulat Saab. I saw him a little while ago. Mr. A.S. Dulat. Mr. Sudhendra Kulkarni, please. Kulkarni Saab.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Please, 3 minutes.
Thank you, O.P. Shah Saab. And thank you, Kasuri Saab. And all the panelists, very happy to be together again. Friends, we are today at a situation when the maximalist positions of India, Pakistan, as well as the political leadership of various tribes in Kashmir, these maximalist positions have lost their relevance. As far as India is concerned, what was stated... but there is some disturbance out there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
please.
The bombastic statements of the Indian Home Minister when on August 5, 2019, the Article 370 was abrogated and other decisions were taken. His statement that all of Jammu and Kashmir, including Gilgit-Baltistan and Aksai Chin, are ours and we are going to give our lives for it. Now, all that boastfulness is gone. The very fact that the Prime Minister at day before yesterday's meeting said that Dil ki Duri and Dilli ki Duri, ye dono khatam honi chahiye, is a tacit admission that these duris, these distances are there and in fact have lengthened after the decisions taken on August 5, 2009. Similarly, the maximalist position of Pakistan, one by one, they are now irrelevant, plebiscite, long ago gone. Similarly, what the Prime Minister of Pakistan said after August 5, that no talks with India until status quo, that is pre-August 5, is restored. That is no longer the position of the Pakistan government. What Pakistan is now saying, that conducive environment should be created for the talks to resume. And what one understands is that Pakistan is no longer insisting on restoration of Article 370 and 35A. Now, this is a big change in the, if this is true, big change in the position of Pakistan. Furthermore, there are even people in Pakistan who have begun to accept, or who begin to state, that whatever part of Kashmir is yours, what is with us is ours, and let's move forward. The very telling statement by the COAS of Pakistan, General Bajwa, that it is time to bury the past and move forward. So there is some new thinking in Pakistan, both civilian leadership as well as the military leadership, which shows that Pakistan has come a long way from its own maximalist position. Similarly, in Kashmir, now there is growing realization that Azadi is a dead end. It's not going to happen irrespective of which government comes to power in Delhi. And with this background, how do we look at the 4-point formula? I think that at least as far as Modi government is in office in Delhi, any talk of self-governance or autonomous status this side of Kashmir is out of the question. In fact, I have Abdul Basit Saab's latest book. I've read it cover to cover, and he has stated that on several occasions, the Indian side, the National Security Advisor, Doval, and others have been very dismissive of the 4-point formula. So as long as there is Modi government here, there is no traction at all, I see, as far as the 4-point formula is concerned. Similarly, a joint mechanism to supervise the implementation of a roadmap comprising Indian, Pakistani, Kashmiri representatives, we shouldn't even expect the Indian government to be positive on this. However, what is the core of the 4-point formula? The core of the 4-point formula is the first point, and that is making the border irrelevant and keeping the map of India and map of Pakistan as it is, and enabling people on both sides to move and trade freely. Now, and demilitarization, of course. If these two things are achieved, and they are, in fact, they are possible to be achieved, I think we will have made significant progress. And what we hear from the Pakistani side is that it is now more focused on geoeconomics and not geopolitics. And in the larger matrix of geoeconomics, the salience of the Kashmir issue is going to be less. And both India and Pakistan, in my view, should now focus on cooperation, connectivity, which will bring prosperity not only to the two sides of Kashmir, but to India and Pakistan in general. I would just take 1 minute more, Shah Saab. A major area of cooperation, a new area of cooperation rather, that has come up and which can help the peace process in Kashmir too, is India and Pakistan working together for peace and normalization in Afghanistan. If we continue working at cross purposes, it won't help either of us, and it certainly won't help our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. And therefore, the responsibility of the civil society today is let us see what is feasible in the 4-point formula, make progress, and then new avenues will open up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Basit Saab. Basit Saab.
Ji, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and thank you very much.
Everyone knows Basit Saab. He doesn't need an introduction.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate on this very important webinar. I would make a few very quick points. I would fully endorse what Kasuri Saab said, that in Pakistan, there is a general consensus that Pakistan and India need to resolve their issues bilaterally. So this is no moot point. My own feeling is that, and history tells us that the two countries cannot build a normal relationship, cannot have bridges of friendship, unless this core issue, Jammu and Kashmir dispute, is resolved. That is, in my view, is a sine qua non for having a relationship, putting this relationship on an irreversible trajectory of normalization and friendship and cooperation. Without this, without resolving the Jammu and Kashmir, I do not really believe that Pakistan and India can go anywhere. Now, how this dispute be resolved, obviously, I would tend to agree with Kulkarni Sahab that maximalist positions have lost their relevance. Now, in the context of India, what India did on 5th August 2019, it has complicated the situation between the two countries. And since Kashmir, resolving the Jammu and Kashmir dispute is a must. So now the Kashmir issue itself has become more complicated and one doesn't really know how to go about it. As was referred to by Mr. Kulkarni, I personally discussed this 4-point formula many times with Mr. Ajit Doval, and every time he was dismissive. And he would give me a smile and try to, not to have discussion on this. But at the end of the day, I now believe that as the two countries are engaged on the back channel, though it is not a back channel as we had after 2004, it's more in the military and intelligence realm. I am privy to some details as to what is being discussed, but let's not bring that into the public arena for now. My own feeling is that the two countries are working along the lines of 4-point formula, but minus many things. Now, the question is that whatever Pakistan and India agree informally, would that be acceptable to the people of Jammu and Kashmir? Would that be acceptable to the political parties in Pakistan and India? Would that formula would have consensus both in Pakistan and India? And my feeling is that whatever the two sides may agree on the back channel may not be, the people on both sides of the border may not be receptive to those ideas, including Kashmiris on both sides of the line of control. So that is what my fear is. Hence, I would, I have been suggesting many things to my own government at different levels. Because, this government in New Delhi in particular, my own feeling is, and I would fully agree with Mr. Kulkarni, that there is no room, and Mr. Kak also referred to that, no room for this government because they have their own worldview and they're very clear what they are doing vis-a-vis Jammu and Kashmir. They may be willing to give up Gilgit-Baltistan or quote-unquote POK, but they are not really willing to let Jammu and Kashmir have autonomy or 370. Now that decision has been taken. And for this government, and I think for successive governments or coming governments in India, no government will have the political support to fiddle with these revocations, in my view. The only possibility is the Indian Supreme Court. If they somehow, as a result of these several scores of petitions, they declare these amendments null and void. But I do not see that happening either. So we are at the moment in a cul-de-sac, though on the back channel we do have some engagement. Now, whether or not that engagement leads to something concrete, and if so, if that agreement, informal agreement, is acceptable to people and to political parties on both sides at large, that is now the question. My feeling is that we are gradually moving in that direction. But what comes out of the entire situation, I do not know. Because, there is feeling in Pakistan that India has been using even the back channel diplomacy to buy time in Jammu and Kashmir to consolidate the new normal which has been created there. And engaging Pakistan is a kind of, convenient tactic to weaken Pakistan's position on Jammu and Kashmir and also keep Pakistan under pressure on terrorism. Now, we have seen, statements recently on FATF. Pakistan has not been removed from the grey list.
Please conclude.
We have seen how India has been, kind of keeping the mantra of terrorism alive. So, I mean, there are still very complex issues. So I'm not very optimistic in the near future, but I fully agree with Kasuri Saab and other speakers that the two countries will have to find a modus vivendi in order to move forward. And without resolving the Jammu and Kashmir dispute along whatever lines, I do not know, there is simply no question that Pakistan and India can put themselves on a trajectory of relationship which is irreversible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dulat, you can hear me. Jasab.
Yeah, Dulat Saab, please.
Can you hear me, sir, now?
Yeah, Dulat Saab, please. 3 minutes for you.
Thank you, Shah Saab. Thank you very much. Let me start by offering my sincerest, most heartfelt condolence and bereavement. And let me say hello to all our friends here, especially to Kasuri Saab and Basit Saab and others from across. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be sitting together. I think everybody, all the speakers have said almost the same thing in different ways. And whereas I would not disagree with my friend Basit Saab that Kashmir needs to be resolved first. And much as I love Kashmir, I would say that let us try and keep Kashmir on one side for the time being. And let me take you back, of course, to the topic today, the 4-point formula. Now, this actually came from, at least it's believed to have come out of General Musharraf's mind. And I must say that I was a great admirer of General Musharraf. I think he was the most reasonable Pakistani leader in recent times. And I would like to remind, apart from the 4-point formula, of which, like Kulkarni Saab said, the real point is the first point, that a settlement on the line of control. And I think that is possibly still doable. But I would like to remind people that Musharraf Saab used to say something else repeatedly, that whatever was acceptable to Kashmir and Kashmiris would be acceptable to Pakistan. And let me say that in these difficult times, especially after the 5th of August 2019, the Kashmiri has gone through a very, very difficult time. And today he's always asked for peace with honor, peace with dignity. Today, let me tell you, as somebody who is in regular touch with Kashmiris, that the Kashmiris want peace at any cost. And they understand, like Kulkarni Saab suggested, that 370 is gone. It's not going to come back. And there was, those who understand Kashmir will know there was nothing much left in 370. It was only a fig leaf. So 370 has gone. I think what can, the positive thing which can come out of this is what Dr. Karan Singh and the Congress has been saying, and what even the PAGD has been indirectly saying, that yes, let us have statehood back. And I think that is crucial. And my own belief, like Kulkarni Saab, is that if statehood were to be restored, I think it would satisfy Pakistan as well. So I think that is where the crux of it lies as of today. The 4-point formula was a great formula, and it was basically, you know, it whetted the appetite of the separatists. Now, let me remind people that there are no separatists left. There are people who, the day before yesterday, questioned why the Prime Minister was speaking even to the mainstream. So a lot of water has flown down the Jhelum, and things are very different now.
Please conclude.
Yeah, so I think I made my point, and I think I'm in total agreement with all those who have spoken that war is not even the last bad option. We need to talk, we need to engage in whatever way. And obviously, Ambassador Basit knows something, you know, which is going on behind the scenes, track 2. And let's hope that carries on, and we do reach some positive this thing. We missed out on the window of opportunity in 2006-07. Let us not miss out on this opportunity, because I'm told this window is much smaller than 2006-07. Thank you, Shah Sahib.
Thank you very much. Professor Radha Kumar. Professor Radha.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. Well,
You're a professor.
Many greetings to all our friends in this discussion. Let me begin by saying two things. One is that I still believe that the framework that was drafted in the back channel in 2006-07 remains the blueprint for a peace settlement. That does not mean that it's going to happen anytime soon, or even that the political leadership in Pakistan and in India are going to make that the base on which discussions for a settlement proceed. However, one thing I would like to stress is that we are all, I'm sure, very well aware that a solution will take time. It may take a longer time, perhaps, than any of us hoped for. Our problem, as I see it, is that every time we come up against a major obstacle, we allow ourselves to go right back to point zero. And this is one reason that we have such overheated atmospheres when it comes to discussing either each other's countries or the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. I deeply regret, for example, that between 2005, 6, 7, and then let us say up to today, we did not persist in trying to broaden discussion, keep making and reiterating the important points, building some sort of public atmosphere. It may be limited. In fact, it's bound to be limited in terms of numbers. However, if you have a large enough number of political leaders on board, which will take a large amount of media articles and so on, many civil society parallel discussions going on, trying to lobby and push political leadership and so on, you can build a sufficient body that will always stand as a point of reference for any new government's attempts to change the goalposts. Now, we have failed to do that time and time again. We failed to do it after the Sharif Vajpayee. We failed to do it after Vajpayee Musharraf. We failed to do it after Manmohan Musharraf. And then we were not able to take it up again. And it seems that that is one key point that we need to hammer home, is that to arrive at a peace settlement in a dispute which has continued for 70 years will take time. Now, what we need to then talk about is how much we've gained in the various efforts that have been made over the decades, whether from the 1950s or from the framework agreement, which was, in my mind, still the best possible solution. That
Please
is
conclude.
that irrespective, if Mr. Dulat says that 370 is gone for good, 370 is just a title. The substance cannot ever go away for good. That question of self-governance, of democracy, of a special relationship, of identity, of status, does not go away. It is there. And the sooner we insist that it's not going away and therefore have to be tackled, and we have actually quite a long negotiation to be able to build what was achieved. Until we stress that point, we are not going to be able to arrive at a settlement. Finally, let me just say, historically, you look at any of the long-standing disputes on identity and special status in the world, it takes 50 years, 30 years, and the peace agreement, the framework exists.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Professor Radha Kumar. I couldn't hear the last words of Professor Radha Kumar. Is Mr. Nijamuddin Bhatt here now? Mr. Nijamuddin Bhatt? Nijamuddin Bhatt Saab? A.M. Watali Saab?
Unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, to unmute.
Nijamuddin Bhatt Saab, I see his hand, but I can't see. Mr. Ashok ji, why don't you speak for a couple of minutes, please?
Yes.
Mr. Ashok Khan.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Mr. Shah. Greetings to our friends from across and within the country. And may I say, out of formula, which we are discussing, out of 4-point formula which we are discussing, I think the basic debate from the point that it was formulated has shifted because of change in the geopolitical context. And today, there is a sense both in Pakistan and in India that bilateral talks have to be consolidated and all the issues have to be straightened by bilateral talks. General Bajwa's statement is very important in that context. So is the reinforcement of Imran Khan of that statement, except for his rhetoric, because he's a politician, therefore he has to cater to constituencies. As Mr. Basit said, that the core issue remains the same thing. So this must be in the psyche, in the DNA of Prime Minister Imran Khan as well. But the military general was forthright and straight. He said, let us forget all other irritants and look forward. And after having said that, India also moved forward. It was a one step forward from Pakistan. India moved 2 steps. And today we have a truce on LOC. Whatever it means for the political process. And Pakistan made a lot of noise about the abrogation of 370, both in the international forums, domestically. It went to the extent of going to the Muslim countries, to Saudi Arabia. Everywhere it made an effort. But it came to be seen diplomatically as a futile effort. Now the sense in the political pundits of Pakistan is that India is not going back on Article 370. It's no question. As Mr. Dullat said very vividly, because he has the ground knowledge of situation far better than any of us in this panel. Second point which I wish to make is that in the effort for initiating engagement with Kashmiris, a lot of homework has gone into, and that is how it culminated into a positive meeting between Kashmiri leadership and Prime Minister. And if you see the takeaways, most of the irritants are left out, and takeaway is positive. Takeaway is restoration of statehood. Takeaway is holding of election. Takeaway is process of delimitation should be done quickly. So
please conclude.
We have a democratic government. In this, Kashmiris went with one positive message. They saw the intent of Prime Minister was honest. And he was sincere in his efforts in engagement. And he told them that I started with you. I will engage other opinions also. And I have a hunch that even all those who for some reason have not chosen to be part of the mainstream so far would also be approached directly or indirectly. Last point I wish to make, that Bajwa's statement reinforced by then this bilateral understanding coming around is a positive development in the subcontinent. Whatever the geopolitical dynamics would be attached to it, let us leave it. And if this positivity has to be taken, then 2 things remain. As Kulkarni ji said, A, that line of control has to be settled. B, that whatever Kashmiris accept with Delhi has to be accepted by Pakistan. So these
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nijamuddin Bhatt Sahab.
Am I audible? Am I audible? Do you hear me?
Nijamuddin Bhatt Sahab. Nijamuddin Bhatt Sahab. Professor Mushir Hussain from UK. Professor Mushir Hussain, please.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Yes.
You wanted 2, I give you 3.
Well, that's very kind of you. I was hoping for 2 minutes, but I'm very grateful. Thank you and greetings to all from both sides of the line of control. I represent the Neem Tree, a think tank based in the UK. and I'm Shiru Sen speaking from Scotland. We have debated and we have had roundtables and seminars on we have discussed the and the backgrounds of 2 points. And
please,
sorry. म्यूट कर दीजिए सबकी माइक, शाह साहब म्यूट कर लीजिए सबकी माइक.
Yes, Hussain Saab, please continue. Hussain Saab.
Idea that these things will take time, and of course it will take time. We have strong support for the 4-point and feel that recent changes in New Delhi and the changes in the Constitution makes it all the more important that the 4 points should be taken up. But we feel there are some things understood beforehand. And to make progress possible, the first of which is
mute everybody.
Sides for each other's political position.
Asa mute कर लीजिए please. Please mute everybody.
सबको mute कर दीजिए.
निजामुद्दीन को म्यूट कर लीजिए. अच्छा.
Number 2, an understanding as to the limit of possible in political Shall I continue?
Yeah, please continue and conclude.
आलिया आप क्या कर रही हो?
सर थोड़ा बंद कर दीजिए.
आलिया जी
बेटा जी बंद कीजिए. म्यूट कर दीजिए. विशादी म्यूट कीजिए.
इनवाइटेड मैं करना अटेंड मुझे मुकर मुझे तो ये उस बार इम्पोर्टेंट मीटिंग.
आप लाइन डिस्कनेक्ट कर, आप डिस्टर्ब कर रहे हैं पूरी मीटिंग को.
आप तो इसे म्यूट कर दीजिए ना.
प्लीज डिस्कनेक्ट कर दीजिए. उधर सब बात आ रही है, आपकी बातें सुनाई दे रही है.
स्पीकर के बगैर सबको म्यूट कर दीजिए.
Yes, please. I told him.
Thank you so much. So
please carry on.
We were saying the 4 points are the points that we are very happy to support, and I think it's the right thing to do, as Kasuri Saab has said and everybody else has pointed out. But there is also the element of respect for each other's political positions and understanding as to the limit of possible rhetoric in political discourse, particularly in electioneering. And 3, guarantees for the safety and the rights, civil rights of Kashmiris on both sides of the line of control. And last but not least, a guarantee of no change in demography of Jammu and Kashmir till a solution is found. And this is a long-term thing. Solution will take time. It will not happen. And this that we're not looking for solutions. We're looking for a position that aims to go towards solution. And when peace happens and people can cross the line and talk to each other, borders become irrelevant in Kashmir, then there will be a peace dividend out of it. The ground realities may change and the solution may come. Because the solution is important because scarcity of water will lead to war. There is no two things about that. So a solution of Kashmir is more important because of the two realities of realities in the two countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I request Mr. Manishankar Iyer to offer his comments? Mr. Manishankar Iyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to begin by congratulating Khurshid Kasuri on his 80th birthday, which was celebrated a few days ago. I believe that that is an auspicious sign, a good augury for this discussion.
I would
as
like
far
to
as
forget about
the
it.
4-point program is concerned, the curious thing is that if you look in the index of Kasuri's very fat book, Neither a Hawk Nor a Dove, you can't find 4-point program in the index. You can't find it in the chapter headings. And as far as I have been able to search through the several pages where he talks of the back channel discussions, there's no specific reference to the 4 points as 4 points. But what does emerge is the 4 points without their being specified or being put down in one single place. And I would imagine that to a very large extent, that is the best scaffolding that has ever been created for a resolution of the India-Pakistan issues on the question of Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, the single most important thing about the scaffolding is that both sides have actually engaged with the issue of Jammu and Kashmir without saying what should be the priority, terrorism or J&K, without going into the question of whether visa should come first or cinema should come next, or J&K should come last, or J&K should come first. It was a direct engagement that was sufficiently successful for pieces of paper with written understandings to be exchanged. There were some points that were left for final negotiation between the Indian head of government and the Pakistani head of state. That always happens because you have to give the credit for the final agreement to the chiefs. You can't have the Indians collecting all the credit. So it's inevitable that there would be a draft agreement between the negotiators and that this would be finalized at the highest level subsequently. And particularly controversial is what Khurshid referred to as substantive demilitarization. We have never been able to accept the concept of demilitarization. And I've checked this again with Sati Lamba just a couple of hours ago, because the question of the military in Kashmir is not only a question of India-Pakistan relations, but also a question of India-China relations. And in the light of the recent deterioration into military or armed conflict between India and China, there cannot be any substantive demilitarization, I'm quoting Khurshid's words, in Jammu Kashmir, but there can be a very substantial reduction of troops on the line of control, accompanied by removing military troops from urban localities. That is feasible. But the expression demilitarization, which is very important to Pakistanis, is not even in the 4-point program as now reflected, acceptable here in India. Nevertheless, the points on which I think there is complete agreement on what should go into the 4 points includes Dr. Manmohan Singh consistently advocating a solution that does not seek to redraw the border or amend the constitution. It is one that makes the boundary irrelevant enables commerce, communication, contacts, and development of the Kashmiri people on both sides, and that ends the cycle of violence. This is a quotation that I have taken from the only disquisition by either of the back channel communicators on what they understood to have come to an agreement on. It's also underlined by Sati Lamba that these conclusions were arrived at because they were conducted quietly and without, and this is the second point, and without the knowledge, prompting, or involvement of any third party. And I think that remains as valid in 2021 as it was in the period 2004 to 7. What is imperative is that the people of Jammu and Kashmir should be able to move freely from one side of the LOC to the other. What is also important is that military forces on both sides of the LOC should be kept to a minimum, particularly in populated areas. That is our formulation of what Khurshid called substantive or substantial demilitarization. And that we should work out, in Manmohan Singh's words, cooperative consultative mechanism to maximize the gains of cooperation in solving problems of social and economic development of the region, and that the degree of self-governance for internal management in all areas should be on the same basis on both sides of the LOC. So substantively, there is no great difference of opinion between Khurshid's construction of the 4 points and Sati Lamba's interpretation of the same. And that's why I say the scaffolding is the most constructive ever built between India and Pakistan. The point is it at all likely that any kind of discussion will be resumed between India and Pakistan? Yes, there are some straws in the wind. There is General Bajwa's declaration. There is the somewhat political statement made by the national security advisors of the two countries, somewhere in Central Asia. There are signs that there have been contacts between India and Pakistan. But I'm relieved that Sudhindra Kulkarni has today come around to virtually the same position I took when Khurshid invited us to Pakistan, to Lahore and Islamabad in 2010. And there I said that so long as there is the Modi government in India, no conversation will be possible. Sudhindra disagreed with me then. He thought that was being too pessimistic, but I was relieved to hear him take exactly the same position now. Because while there may be some cosmetic exchanges in the near future between the Modi government and the Imran Khan government, the positions that they have both staked out, and I think Imran's is a reaction to the position that India initially staked up, is that does not give light enough to be certain that we will be able to talk. But I think the point that I would most importantly carry away from today's presentations is the one made by Radha Kumar. Radha said that even if it is true that there can be no restoration of Articles 370 and 35A, issues involved with those cannot be wished away. So we might find ourselves in a position where eventually, when all this gets settled, if it ever does get settled, There could be another form in which the assurances regarding identity, democracy, representation, special position of Jammu and Kashmir, which was there in our constitution through Articles 370 and 35A, will have to be addressed, and will have to be addressed to the satisfaction of the J&K leadership. And I see Muzaffar has just come on the screen for me. And what Muzaffar Shah said about how you could not arrive at a solution despite a dialogue unless there was a restoration of Kashmiri rights that used to be enshrined. I use the word very deliberately, enshrined in 370 and 35A. There is no way forward. But as and when, if and when, the road to a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue between Delhi and Srinagar, and also between Delhi and Islamabad, ever opens up, there will be no alternative to going back to our birthday boys 4-point formula. That is the key to unlocking the door. There is, I find, a backtracking on the part of President Musharraf with regard to those 4 points. But I'm not too worried by that, because the records, both in India and in Pakistan, in their respective foreign offices, shows that there was near agreement. There was total agreement on the basic principles of the 4-point program, even if certain matters of language still had to be resolved. And therefore, I believe that as and when, if and when the dialogue is resumed, then the threads have to be picked up from February, March 2007, when they were dropped initially in Pakistan, and then after 2008 and Mumbai terrorist attack by India as well, and have certainly not been resumed in the period that Mr. Modi has been in office. So I'm glad that we have such events to keep the memory of the 4 points alive, because one of the shocks that I got during the seminar was to learn that 14 years have passed since we thought up the 4-point program. I mean, 14 points in Hindu mythology is 14 years in Hindu mythology is the longest period because those were the years of Lord Rama's exile. 14 years. And still we are talking today on this webinar about the 4 points, and whether it is 24 years or 34 years or 44 years later that we are going to actually resume a dialogue, I think for it to be constructive, we will have to go back to the scaffolding put up by Kasuri Saab, General Pervez Musharraf, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Tariq Aziz, and Sati Damda. The nation, both nations, are very grateful to them. And they have shown that a solution is possible, provided we have the will to go down that path. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shah Saab.
Sayyid Tehseen Gilani from UK. Is he around? Sayyid Tehseen Gilani. Sayyid Tehseen Gilani.
क्या पता मुझे समझ मैं तो नहीं कोई मेहमान हूँ मेहमान आप है ये
प्लीज
मैंने वही
निजामुद्दीन भट्ट साहब
हेलो
निजामुद्दीन भट्ट साहब
एम आई ऑडिबल में मेरी बात सुन रहे हैं आप
बोलिए
निजाम साहब बोलिए आपका सुन रहे हैं आप बोलिए निजाम साहब आप बोलिए प्लीज स्टार्ट स्पीकिंग आप सुन रहे हैं ना मुझे जी बोलिए आप स्टार्ट स्पीकिंग Sabko adab, salam alaikum. I am excited as an ordinary Kashmiri that we are again in a positive discourse and broader contours of Kashmir problem are being discussed both at governmental level and as people's level, civil society level. That's an excitement. It's after a long time happening. But I have apprehensions too, as Mr. Basit referred to certain hard facts that once the present dispensation
Please stop the side talks. Please stop the side talks. Please stop the side talks.
Muslim Jan, please, Muslim Jan, put it on the
mute. This is absolute.
Put it on the mute.
This is absolutely wrong.
Nijamuddin sahab,
there is a lot of fuss around. मेरी बात कोई
Shah Sahab, please tell them. Please mute.
बगल में ही कोई बात कर रहा है.
मुस्लिम जान का
Mute the microphones.
As an ordinary Kashmiri, the principal stakeholder apart, that broader contours of my problem are being discussed again, both at governmental level as well as civil society level. But there are apprehensions too. I have undergone so much of trauma, particularly for last 2-3 years, where I see I am not heard, where I see there is no reach out to me, where I see that channels of justice have been blocked for me. As a Prime Minister of India, there was a hope as well as hope that we are again acknowledged. There is some kind of space being provided to put up our viewpoints. That was we expected from that broader platform when Prime Minister invited all mainstream leaders. And I'm happy as Mahbooba ji said, that we were candid in putting up our submissions, and Prime Minister and Home Minister also heard with patience. But as the meeting ended, there is a broader question. Will this particular process of dialogue with mainstream parties be continued to reach at some culmination, where distances between New Delhi and Srinagar could at least be shortened, where trust deficit between New Delhi and Srinagar will at least be addressed. That's how Mahbooba ji has said that if the main issue is not in focus, that there be a new beginning with certain confidential measures, so that the people who are alienated, the people who seem to be suppressed, the people who see themselves as helpless, the people who see their state truncated, their society divided, fragmented, they will at least get some confidence that again they are being acknowledged as an entity where their core problems will be addressed. Like so many of the speakers said, that unfortunately the problem has been compounded, complicated by various developments. And everyone, at every occasion, when there has been an opening, there was a disappointment. And now when a new beginning is made at internal level, external dimension apart, whatever the reasons, it should not be a disappointment now. My appeal will be to the civil society. Our 4-point formula apart, they have put this formula with all sincerity. And after a long deliberation and with their experiences at their back, one would acknowledge that sincere people are putting up their best, that peace in the region is returned with some kind of a resolution. I will say that soft borders, end of hostility between India and Pakistan, and people-to-people dialogue If that is resumed at external level, that will get some kind of relief, will reduce violence, will increase prospects of peace, and will give the sufferers some confidence that even beyond the borders we are heard. But within my own domain, that is between New Delhi and Srinagar, until and unless, like Muzaffar Shah Saab said, that my basic agreement is restored. I have as an individual been seeing Kashmir arrangement with New Delhi, between Srinagar and New Delhi, as a political agreement between leadership of Jammu and Kashmir, and then dispensation, and whole nation had acknowledged. But that agreement has been time and again vitiated and finally undone. Until and unless some kind of sanctity is restored to some promises, I see the institutions coming in way. If Supreme Court gives me a relief, that's one way out. But the whole problem does not hinge on the scrutiny of law or constitution. Whole problem lies on the scrutiny of conscience. Have there been agreements with us? Those had to be honored. Has there been any commitment? That was to be honored. But what I see for 70 years on, I have seen a disappointment with disappointment, constant perpetual suppression, and the blocking of the...
Please conclude.
No divisive politics. I appeal to civil society without discussing a bottom line. See that present day dispensation gives us the dignified space to talk, that we are heard, and institutions that have a label of democracy are open to us and we are heard, and forums of civil society, we who go by conscience, who go by facts, we are not blocked to put up our viewpoint there, and any kind of support, legitimate support, through genuine legitimate processes, that comes to me will be a welcome. I will appeal to you all that the beginning that has been made after long disappointment between New Delhi and Srinagar may be augmented and strengthened to the extent that this becomes a new start for some kind of a bottom line where peace would return, where harmony would return, where region would live in harmony and peace, and where I would see that, yes, I have been treated as a citizen with rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. A.M. Watali from Srinagar.
शाह साहब
नहीं, एक सेकंड, बताली साहब को बोलने दीजिए, उसके बाद बोलिएगा.
Sir,
बताली साहब.
Shah Saab, thank you very much. I would just be very brief. This 4-point formula, though a bold initiative by Mr. Manmohan Singh and General Musharraf, obviously, and please, Mr. Nizamuddin, keep quiet. This formula.
Okay, sir, okay, I will mute it.
General Musharraf obviously envisaged the division of the disputed state into two parts by converting the LOC into a permanent international border. The 4-point formula ignores the will of the main stakeholders, the people of Jammu and Kashmir state, living on both sides of the divide, in 5 regions of the Jammu, Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, Ladakh, and Gilgit-Baltistan. It does not take into consideration the differing views, political aspirations of the people living in, political aspirations, political, religious, and ethnic, linguistic, and religious groups living in 5 regions and sub-regions of the state. Therefore, to my mind, the formula is not going to bring peace and stability to the region, though it's a good beginning. Having said this, both India and Pakistan may be well advised to go back into the history of the conflict in order to appreciate the aspirations of the ruler as well as the people of the state. Needless to say that people of the state were independently fighting for freedom from autocratic rule of Maharaja Hari Singh. Their freedom movement was not part of India freedom movement, nor it was part of a demand for a separate homeland for Muslims. However, the partition of the country changed the narrative of total independence of the state to full autonomy. Therefore, the solution has to be found taking into consideration the historical facts, which I am going to very briefly state. Maharaja
One more minute for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Maharaja Hari Singh's desire to remain independent was with the cordial relations with India and Pakistan. He neither acceded to India nor to Pakistan from August till October, when he was driven to the wall due to tribal attack. The aspirations of the majority of the people, enshrined in Naya Kashmir Resolution of 1944, passed by the National Conference, the premier political party of the state, demanding independent state of Jammu and Kashmir with Maharaja as a titular head. The announcement of Chaudhry Hamidullah Khan, acting president of Muslim Conference, though a pro-Pakistani party, made on 24th May 1947 at Jammu, demanding autonomous state of Jammu and Kashmir with Maharaja as titular head, with cordial relations both countries, India and Pakistan. Then Azad Kashmir Declaration, of the provisional government, announced on 24th October. That declaration is nothing but a declaration of an independent country. It says that an independent entity.
But Ali Saab.
It has just a minute, sir. Just a minute. I am finishing. I am concluding. For all practical purposes, that declaration was an independent declaration of an independent country having relations with both countries. Compromising his own aspirations, Maharaja Hari Singh signed conditional instrument of accession, conceding only 3 subjects. That is very well known, and which was later on eroded. Then Delhi Agreement. It was also signed by Maharaja Jawaharlal Nehru and Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. And after negotiations after 2 years, that fuller autonomy should be given to the people of the state, as mentioned in the instrument of accession. Later, policy of might is right, and everything was snatched. And now, many of the panelists are discussing present situation, that everything now it is not reversible, it is not this and that. You have removed everything from us. You have divested us from all rights. Now you are saying, no, you are not going to get back. You have to carry on with this. This is not acceptable. Peace will not return to the state unless you restore the full autonomy to all the sides, both the sides. And the final position is that you have to join the people, not divide the people. You cannot have any solution where you divide it between India and Pakistan. Whereas my suggestion is that we should have an autonomous region or consisting of all these 5 regions together, having separate governments, having separate legislatures, and with all the responsibility of the 2 countries to develop the area. That is all I have to see, because...
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Shah Saab, I have to just add one point before the discussion. It will be helpful for the discussion. May I say it?
Please.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I just want to make it very, very clear to all our panelists there, from the country here and from across the border, Kasuri Saab, Basit Saab, Dulat Saab from here, and all our other panelists, that when you make a reference of PAGD, well, you see, there are 6 parties in PAGD, and we are 6 executive members. I am one of the executive members of the PAGD. And please, we cannot make a reference that PAGD has gone down on 370 and 35A. They will be forgetting it slowly and slowly, and we will go for statehood and elections and all. Please, there is no question of dilution of our 4th August 2019 declaration, that is called the Gupkar Declaration. Nobody has the powers to dilute the Gupkar Declaration. And
thank you very much.
Like Radha Kumar said, 370 or 35A, whether anybody likes it or not, is not going anywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Manjeet Singh Khera from Chandigarh. Is Manjeet Khera there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
I have heard all the discussion and reached one conclusion, that the only way is taking baby steps forward for the ultimate resolution. And what are those steps? That is restoration of people-to-people contact, restoration and increasing in cross-border trade, so that both the countries realize the great potential this trade has and the effect it will have on the economy of both the countries. And in the present times when economy is one of the principal factors for international relations, that will help improve relations on the two sides and inculcate a realization that trade and people-to-people contact and interaction between people as well as the political leaders can bring about a substantial change and solution to the problem. Whether we can go back to 370 or we cannot go back, it was already diluted to a very large extent. As a constitutional lawyer, I can say that very little remained of 370 after so many amendments from 1957, 8 to today.
Thank you.
That was not done with our consent.
Thank you very much.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Yes.
I'm saying it as, I agree with you, it was done without consent. But it was done. I'm saying nothing much remained of 370 when it was repealed. It was a useless exercise. What I'm saying is, the only solution lies in people-to-people contact, building confidence measures. This terrorism can stop only with contact.
Thank you.
Creating a sense of confidence and brotherhood between the two peoples. Thank you.
Thank you. Friends, we have 7-8 minutes with us. Before we request Kasuri Saab to offer his concluding remarks, are there any friends who would like to speak for a minute or two?
I want only to clarify one thing to Mr. Kasuri, that I am an advocate of a joint united regional cooperation of Gilgit, Baltistan, etc. 5 regions. It should be united together.
Thank you. Is anyone else who would like to speak?
साहब मुझे बोलना है अभी.
May I say a few words?
आपने बोल दिया यार 3 बार.
खजूरिया साहब, please.
जी. शाह साहब, बाकी साथियों, being a firm believer of peace and interdependence, I hold that Jammu Kashmir's resolution is based on the partnership of 2 nations and the consent of may it be called as a joint condominium, joint confederation, or joint arrangement. It is not a new idea.
निजामुद्दीन साहब जरा बंद कर लीजिए, म्यूट कर लीजिए.
My idea, it is an idea is not a new. What it has already working in the world. At present, please थोड़ा खामोशी का दान दें. Please, it is functioning in 7 places in the world on this day. Joint condominium or joint arrangement. It is a battery in the world of interdependence. If we want to durable peace in Jammu and Kashmir and the resolution of problem of Jammu and Kashmir, the 2 nations national honor and the people's sentiments and aspirations of Jammu and Kashmir people should be in coordinated in that way that a joint partnership may be called in any form. Jammu Kashmir is also again in a regional basis, 5 regions that should be united and they have to access to meet each other. The 4-point program or another joint program of India-Pakistan can strengthen the SAARC and it can be a new democratic process in South Asia. There is a war-like situation in Jammu Kashmir. Each and every superpower is seeing to the Jammu Kashmir people the natural resources as well as our confrontation, and they want to use or integrate or intrigue in our land. Therefore, I believe that Jammu Kashmir problem should be resolved with the aspirations of the Jammu Kashmir people, and India-Pakistan should come up with an open heart and should avoid the attitude of confrontation, politics of hatred, and politics of war or anything. They should shine. Firstly, they should shine no power.
Thank you, Khajuria sir. Thank you. Mr. Satish, for a minute. Mr. Satish, please.
नमस्ते.
हाँ, एक ही मिनट में जल्दी से बात
करें. मुझे इस बात की बड़ी खुशी है कि सारे लोग कहते हैं कि हम कमजोर पार्टी हैं कश्मीर वाले, सबको चिंता है. मैं ये कहूंगा कि why to start with the start and end with कश्मीर. आप हम लोगों को कम से कम पार तो जाने दीजिए, कहीं तिजारत तो करने दीजिए, कहीं से शुरुआत तो कीजिए, लोगों से मिलने तो दीजिए. Let's start with interacting with the people, our own people and across. जो हमारे आजाद कश्मीर में बैठे हैं लोग, वहां के जाने के लिए कोई व्यवस्था कर दीजिए. मेरा वहां पर टेम्पल में मंदिर नहीं जा सकता हूँ. मैं इनसे गुजारिश करता हूँ, why to start with कश्मीर, यहाँ से शुरू कीजिए ना. मंदिर तो जाने दीजिए, लोगों से मेरे को वहां पर अपनी दुकान तो लगाने दीजिए, शुरुआत तो कहीं से कीजिए. बट शुरुआत कोई भी मीटिंग का होता है कश्मीर पे ही शुरू होता है, कश्मीर पे ही खत्म होता है. There are other ways to look into it. बाकी जितने भी सारे लोग थे सीनियर से, they have also said it. Let's have a people to people contact. Let's interact on the Zoom meetings and other back channels. तो इतना ही मैं कहूँगा, please allow us to interact with our brethren in other side of the the country in the Pakistan. Thank you.
Basit Saab, would you like to offer any comment now? Basit Saab.
Thank you, Opisha Saab. I was somewhat, struck by what Mr. Daulat Saab said and others. I mean, that there is no separatist left in Indian occupied Kashmir. If that is the case, indeed, then we would expect the Indian government to release all the Hurriyat leaders. I mean, the draconian laws should be lifted and so on and so forth. Secondly, now, how many baby steps he would take? Since Shimla Agreement was signed back in 1972, we have been, hearing and this argument that we need to build confidence building, have conducive atmosphere, and meanwhile, Kashmiris are dying and Kashmiris are being suppressed. So how long this will continue, these baby steps? I do not really understand this logic. The time has really now come that the two sides sit together and resolve this issue and come up with a solution which is also acceptable and which is in sync with the political aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I fully agree with those Kashmiris who have underscored that unless and until a solution which was acceptable to them, there can't be viable, peace in the region. So, I mean, these narratives we have been hearing for the last so many decades now, and they're going nowhere. We take one step forward, 2 steps back.
I'm going to ask him.
We come back to square one. So I do not see the Indian side willing to really get into brass tacks and find a workable solution. I'm sorry to say that.
Thank you very much.
Basit Saab, please, Basit Saab, can you put line? Shah Saab, I just
to me. Kuldeep Saab, is Kuldeep Saab around? Kuldeep Saab?
Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, a minute for you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shah. You know, I have heard with a lot of interest all the panelists, and lots of positives have come out of the discussion, as well as the various points given on way to proceeding forward on Jammu and Kashmir issue. I would just restrict myself to 1 minute view on the 4-point formula, which was precisely the subject of discussion today. No, like the first and the second point, which are most important: demilitarization and making the borders porous. Now, demilitarization, we have seen that Jammu and Kashmir prior to 1990 was almost demilitarized as far as the cities and towns and urban centers are concerned. The valley on the whole was concerned. Whatever forces were there, they were on the borders. The militarization happened as a result of the infiltration and the terrorism, which was unleashed from across the border. So once we have demilitarization, I'm very sure, given the ground reality, I've worked here for 43 years, given the ground reality, the terrorism will re-emerge, we'll be back to square one, we'll be back to fighting the terrorism rather than solving the Kashmir problem.
Thank you.
Now, second point, I'll just conclude with second point, is again one of the important points, making the borders porous. We started with the idea in 2005 February, when the bus service was started, and later on with the trade in October 2008. Both things resulted in lots of people, the trained people coming from across the borders, the trade was used into funding the separatists, funding the militancy, and making the border porous, and with no passport, no documents required, free movement is obviously going to the situation in Kashmir further. So before proposing any formula, we have to see what is the ground reality in Kashmir. Is it workable? Is it feasible in the present circumstances? No. If trust deficit is removed, the proposition from either side is not going to work on ground. So first we have to restore the trust.
Thank you.
That's between India and Pakistan, and then move forward. As far as if we want genuine peace to return to Kashmir, as far as people of Kashmir are concerned, they genuinely want peace. They want development, they want their aspirations, and they want to move forward. So for that purpose, if the two sides think that should be the core point, then we can move forward. If we try to misuse the demilitarization and porous borders, then we can't reach anywhere. It will be back to square one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now request Kasuri Saab to offer his concluding remarks? Kasuri Saab.
Thank you.
And my apologies to those friends who could not get time to speak, but these are the time constraints. Kasuri Saab.
Thank you very much. I've heard all the honorable panelists, and I'd like to make a few comments on what I've heard. First of all, no solution at all is feasible unless Kashmiri is accepted. Let me state it categorically. Mani Shankar, I don't know if is Mani here or not, said that he could not find 4-point formula in my book. He's right. It's called the Framework for a Kashmir Settlement. It was the framework for a Kashmir. It have about 12 or 13 points. Just as Lahore resolution was called Pakistan resolution by the media at that time, these 12 or 11 or whatever points they are were called 4 points by the media. But I, as an author of this book, had to be true to the spirit. So I have mentioned it under the Framework for a Kashmir Settlement. If Mani Shankar is here, I'd like him to note that. Number two, some honorable member said, why don't Pakistanis take the initiative? But So all of you brothers, Mr. O.P. Shah, there's Mr. Kulkarni, the Manishankar Iyer, they've all visited Pakistan many times on our invitations. Who created the situation in which it's not possible to just go across the international border? You're talking about visas. Our government, despite all the that I've heard from the other side, is far more liberal in issuing visas. And I agree with people that unless you have people-to-people contact, you cannot create an enabling environment. But let me state, whatever enabling environment you create in India and Pakistan, it is not possible for a solution to be reached if Kashmir is rejected. That is the basis on which I wrote my book, and I said I would not have suggested this had I been convinced that the Kashmiris would reject it. I can tell you categorically, if the Kashmiris reject it, what is called 4 points, 12 points, or whatever points, people of Pakistan will reject it. So nothing is going to work. And as Professor Radha Kumar rightly said, it doesn't matter. You call it 4 points, 12 points, or 370 or 35. If you change the demographic character, forget about Kashmir or Pakistan-India talks. There'll be other consequences. So whether you call it 370 or 35, whatever you like, and if the Kashmiri human rights are not going to be respected, there can be no settlement. So yes, we would like to host many conferences, but there is no ground for it. Visas are not issued. Pakistanis do issue visas, and even after Prime Minister Modi's government, lots of Indians have visited Pakistan. But after a certain, I think after the 5th of August settlement, most Pakistanis avoid going to India because they have been harassed in the past. So let me do some plain talking. As one who has advocated Pakistan-India peace for a long time, I think South Asians are, you look at what's happened. And I must make this point. South Asia is against Southeast Asia, China, Japan, South Korea. It looks that we inhabit a different continent. We are not a part of Asia. They have gone leaps ahead of us. Why? Are people of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Sri Lanka any backward intellectually? Not at all. We have created a situation in which there's no connectivity between countries of South Asia. We are not even prepared to hold a SAARC conference because it's being held in Islamabad. So what I want to say to you is, of course, there's nothing holy about 4 points. You can call it anything. And I'm sure when a future settlement arises, it will have the stamp of the rulers of the time. But there can be no settlement if Kashmiris will not accept it. So I'm prepared to answer any questions, but I don't see how can there be progress. What we are reading in the media, what is happening, forget to Kashmiris, to Indian Muslims, because it gets them votes. If a political party feels that it will get votes by attacking Muslims or Kashmiris, there will be no progress. So let us be very frank. Let's try user input. And I agree with those panelists who said, I'm not so unrealistic. I've been an advocate of Pakistan-India peace. I've supported 4 points. 4 points is the only way out. And even if it takes 20 years, that is ultimately going to be the only solution. What is 4 points? A win-win for Kashmiris, Pakistanis, and Indians, because war is not resolved. There's nothing magical about 4 points. But you heard Kashmiri voices even on this panel. Now, the leaders who were invited by the Prime Minister of India were selected by the Prime Minister. There are other voices in Kashmir. There's JKLF. They were not asked, but even those who went have completely dismissed the idea, as Muzaffar Shah Sahab, you heard him loud and clear, that there's no question of their abdicating from 37, 35A. It's not a matter for Pakistan. It's a matter for Kashmiris. I am all for it. I feel Pakistan and India must resolve their disputes if they have to fight poverty. We must reflect deeply why we have been left behind by those who were behind us in 1947 in Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kasuri Saab.
China
It has been a splendid afternoon. I wish more people could have participated. I am very grateful to all the friends who have come on our invitation. I hope this dialogue process we will continue. Thank you very much indeed for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.